Close of play of the second day of the second test between England and South Africa at Old Trafford. See South Africa close on 23 for no wicket. They survived 9 rather tricky overs there towards the end after Ben Stokes declared on England's total of 415 for 9. So they added 304 runs for the 6 wickets that they lost today, and that gave them a lead of 264. Today, England lost Bairstow for 49, Crawley for 38. There was an excellent partnership between Stokes and Foakes. They played so well together, complementing each other, patient starts, and then certainly Stokes started to play with more aggression as his innings developed. He was dropped a very difficult chance on 92 when the new ball was taken. He went on to score 103. It's his 12th Test century, and of course his first as England captain. Therefore, from that perspective, that'll be really very special for him, I would imagine. If South Africa thought there was some respite after Stokes was out, well, they were wrong, because Stuart Broad came out with licence to go out and play shots in this attacking mode that they've devised for him in particular. He got off the mark with a 6. He was stumped in the end off Harmer for 21. Harmer's first and only wicket, incidentally, and bear in mind that the change in South Africa's tactic, and the reason they batted first yesterday was to play these 2 spinners. Well, they took 3 wickets between them. Broad, Robinson and Leach were the victims that fell to the spinners. Robinson made 17 and Leach unveiled a reverse sweep for 4. That sort of suggests, I think it illustrates just how positively England were playing towards the end. Ben Foakes finishing on 113 not out, his second Test century, and his first since his first in his first Test match. So 15 matches had passed since then. A really good knock. We know he can play spin bowling. Today he just demonstrated and reminded everyone that actually he's not a bad player of fast bowling either, because there was some fast bowling there of the highest quality. Rabada, of course, Ngidi and Nokia, who bowled very fast throughout. 3 for 82 he finished with. Rabada 2 for 110 and Ngidi 1 for 61. And those spinners I mentioned, Maharaj and Harmer, they took 3 wickets between them for a cost of around about 150. So again, South Africa might need to reflect on whether or not their tactic was right in playing those 2 spinners here. But the ball has spun, and you imagine that Jack Leach will probably be the biggest threat tomorrow. He bowled 3 overs out of those 9 that were bowled. Jimmy Anderson 2 and Ollie Robinson bowled 4. So I've got our 2 usual suspects with me alongside me. Steve Finn to start with. Vernon Philander will be joining us shortly. So Stephen, I'm not sure, well, apart from taking a wicket or 2 at the end there, I'm not sure England could have wanted a better or had a better day than that. No,
the dream day. I think from a weather perspective, I think they had a fantastic day. It was bright sunshine when we got here this morning, and the batters made hay. I think they weathered the early storm from South Africa. They knew that South Africa would come out hunting early wickets, and I think the manner in which Ben Foakes and Ben Stokes played, particularly at the beginning of their partnership, I think epitomised the smartness that they had about their game today, that maybe, if we're being super critical, they lacked in the previous Test match at Lords, the ability to weather that quick spell from Nortje and Rabada and then see off the spinners through the beginning of their spell. And as soon as they'd got the measure of the pace of the pitch, they then went about taking the South African attack down, and the second half of that partnership was much more explosive. So when they came together 147 for 5, you'd say it was touch and go whether England could get bowled out for 200 if South Africa continued their momentum. They stopped that. They made the most of it later on in the day, and both Stokes and Foakes played wonderfully. They did, and I mean, if you look at 304 runs added today, well, about 80 overs thereabouts. I mean, that's still a good rate of scoring, but without what we've seen in some of the previous tests of really going about it, crash bang wallop. It shows you can still score at a good rate in a careful way. You still play positively, and the running between the wickets and things like that, they were really busy, I thought. Yeah, I think there's a difference between positivity and recklessness, and I think at times they've probably been on the cusp or too far towards the reckless side of that equation. But I think here they showed a positivity right from the beginning. I know Crawley and Bairstow didn't bat very long together, but they got the scoreboard moving this morning by rotating the strike. They turned 1s into 2s. The South Africans' throws back into the keeper was sloppy. Little things like that just shift the momentum in the game slightly. South Africa then got 2 wickets in 3 overs from some very good bowling from Rabada and Nortje. But then when Stokes and Foakes came together, the way that they built their partnership was those small little rotations of strike, keep the bowlers not getting one person stuck at one end. And then, as we saw later in the day, they made the most of being used to being in on that wicket.
What do you make of South Africa's day then, Vernon?
Yeah, I think you have to give credit. I think it's England's day. They set themselves well this morning again, and to dominate with the bat in the manner which they have, I think they were really disciplined at the start. They left balls well. I think Stokes, he got a half century in 100 balls.
Yes.
We were told by Andy earlier that was the longest he's taken to get to 50. So it just shows you that you have to really apply yourself against this quality South African attack. But in saying that, I think the conditions are completely different to what we've seen yesterday morning. The wicket has flattened out, so you can bat long periods of time, and that partnership between Foakes and Stokes really illustrate that if you can get in on the surface, it is really tough to get out. So South Africa, they would hope that they can, in their second innings with the bat, really post a mammoth score and get themselves, back into this contest somehow. But you do feel that the day belonged to England.
Yeah. Do you think that Dean Elgar was looking around, searching around for that extra quick bowler? I mean, he fielded for a while actually as substitute, Jansen, but they wanted to play two spinners. They took 3 wickets between them. 8, 9 and 10, they dismissed for about 150.
Yeah, I think he obviously had the luxury in the previous game of having a left-arm seamer in Jansen, and it probably lacks in this game for him. And I suppose Jansen brings a different variety to that seam attack. I think you've got 3 seamers, you've got 2 guys that can hover around the 90 mile an hour, and then I think Jansen he complemented him very well in that first test match. So he probably was missing the services of his left-arm seamer, but you've decided to go into this test match with 2 spinners. I think yesterday, to take into consideration the conditions that you had at the start of the day, and I suppose we can argue about that, but for me, once you've picked your team, you have to commit to that decision.
You don't change at the last minute, even when you wake up in the morning and see conditions like that.
Absolutely. So England got the better of the bowling conditions, and so did South Africa in the first test match. So it's a long way to fight themselves back into this one, and you're gonna need 2 batsmen or 3 batsmen to really knuckle down.
Yes. And
get big hundreds. And like I said, we have seen glimpses of the surface just flattening out a little bit, and I think from a South African perspective, they're not going to go down without a fight, and that I can guarantee.
Well, at least didn't lose any wickets tonight.
Yeah, that's a positive. Yeah. A couple of close moments there, but to me, I always feel that especially when you play test matches like this, it's not always about how good you look. Sometimes you have to get through a patch where you really fight through it. You can look ugly at times, but when you get through those sort of periods, you can score. And I think we've seen it with Zach Crawley last night. He didn't look he didn't look good, but he managed to get the job done. And I think that South Africa would be hoping for something similar to that, to get to that. We've always been talking about a 30 over mark with as little damage as possible, and then you can bat on the surface. I mean, it's been shown again today.
Yeah. How do we assess Zach Crawley then at the end? I mean, he made his way to 38 from his overnight 17. He faced 101 balls. He was caught behind of Nortje, a decent ball actually. Will that take the heat off? Do we turn the burners down a bit?
I think naturally when England find themselves in a good position in the game, I think it turns the burners down on people slightly. And I think what we saw in this innings from Zach Crawley was not a giving away of his wicket. I think he did get done by a good delivery by Nortje. But I think that the way that he batted last night, especially getting through those 28 overs last night, and I know in the long run you don't want an opening batter just to get through that period and take the shine off the ball for the people behind him, but I think that in the context of this game, that was a really, really important 28 overs to bat that have allowed Foakes and Stokes today to come in and bat in that middle period against bowlers, as Vernon's mentioned a number of times, who are in their 3rd and 4th spells. And it's unsustainable to bowl the pace that we've seen Nortje bowl through the first test match and a little bit if you're getting into your 3rd and 4th spell. And we saw his pace just drop slightly to 86, 87 miles an hour. But it makes such a difference when you're down there, and that's when you allow those middle order or the middle order to capitalise. So I think Zach Crawley did a good job for his team in this test match, and to me that's all that matters.
Yeah. How do you assess his innings, Vernon? I mean, given that you've arrived in looking at it from a slightly outsider's perspective.
Yeah, I think he'll take a lot of confidence out of it. I think the whole mantra around, the England way of play was always to be positive, and I suppose you could really hide behind it. But when you're up against a quality seam attack, you have to leave well. And it's old-fashioned Test cricket, but that is the purpose of the game. I mean, I keep harping on the fact that you want bowlers to come back in their third and fourth spells. Reason being also is you then have an older ball which which you're facing and up against, and then you can really score. I mean, you face a Nokia with a 20 over ball, you're probably up against it because he can get you out at any time. But yes, you face him with a 50 or 60 over old ball, you can score because he's got pace on the ball, and it's little things like that. It's also understanding from his point of view what's going to work for me, for him. I think everyone wants him to be positive, and he probably possessed the game, but it has got him out. So you want to. For me, Test cricket is all about being consistent, and I know there was a remark being made in the week where I think Baz McCullum said it, he's not too worried about, these little scores because he's got his one score in him and he's not worried about consistency. To me, I have to disagree with it. I think when you play Test cricket, it's about consistency. For a period of time, when things are going your way, can you do it consistently? And I think, he's shown a great deal of maturity. There's obviously been a lot said in the media, and
yes,
a lot of things sometimes you don't want to read into the media, but unfortunately you can't help yourself being at this level, because people will tag you into these things. So somehow you would have read into it to bounce back like that with an innings like that. He might not have got the runs, but the work that he's done and the processes which he's followed, I think if he can do that for longer periods of time, he'll get bigger runs.
Do you think, Stephen, that there's a lot of noise about all this positivity to start with, wasn't there? And I mean, going back to when Stokes and McCullum came together, and those first few games were extraordinary, the way that England went out and attacked, and it worked. But do you think actually that I don't know if they've learned, or whether it's always going to be the case that actually, this Test match has not been played like that at all? Not really. The openers have just played, at least it hasn't lasted very long yet, but Crawley's innings, Folkes' innings, and you can even say Stokes' innings actually were all played in sort of a modern Test cricket style. Yes, they were busier than the 1970s, but you know what I mean? There's been no reckless hitting at all, has there? For what we've been hearing about, and we're going to go hard, we're going to smash it, we're going to do this, that wasn't played like that at all.
No, and I think the one word that I would say that I've seen in this Test match is intelligence at recognising situations. Ben Stokes, for his second 50, scored almost a run a ball, but his first 50 was scored off 100 balls. So I think it's about reading the game situations, and I think over time as a team, you'll come out, and they wanted to buck the trend of the way that the team have been playing Test cricket over the last 18 months or so, which was getting beat a lot, which is the harsh reality of it. And they've gone ultra hard and ultra positive to try and buck that trend. They've now bucked that trend, and I think they're going to have to, or they will naturally find an equilibrium where they're able to go up and down the gears. And I think that's when this Test side will become a good Test side, is when they're able to soak up those passages of play against the high-class bowling attack that South Africa possess. But then when they get the opportunity, they can be aggressive, and that's when you see the really exciting cricket that we saw in periods today.
Like Stuart Broad being promoted for a start in that Hawk role. I see he had a Hawk T-shirt on at one stage, as if he's actually got a T-shirt to prove it. Anyway, we can join Eleanor Oldroyd now, who's with Ben Folkes. Eleanor.
Well, Ben, congratulations. Your first Test century at home, unbeaten at the end. How did it feel like there today?
Yeah, it was amazing. Obviously, batting with Stokesy is a fantastic person to bat with and kind of guides you through. And yeah, as we kind of built the partnership, obviously put us in a pretty decent place in the game, and then getting closer to the 100, I think, yeah, you start to think a little bit, and then lucky enough to get it. So yeah, a bit of relief, but just pure joy, yeah.
You say he's a good person to bat with. Most of us don't know what that feels like, so what is it like?
He's just so calm, and you can feel that he backs you and he's confident in you. He talks you through the process and just kind of makes everything really clear for you. Doesn't leave you guessing what you're meant to do. It's just, this is our plan, try and go and execute it.
It felt like a more traditional Test partnership, if you like, than what we've seen in previous Tests this summer. Was that the plan, just to kind of be a little bit more conservative, as it were?
Yeah, I think definitely as the ball got older, it was hard to score, and there weren't as many scoring opportunities. And then when the spin was on, it was hard to get away as well. So I think it was kind of absorbing that pressure, because I think that's our thing. It's not all guns blazing the whole time. It's like when you have to, then you do absorb. and just try and build in more of an old school kind of way.
And how is the pitch behaving for the spinners?
Yeah, there's spin there. It's almost like it shoots a little bit, I'd say. It's like the odd one skids through and then the odd one spins. So I think as the game wears on, I think there'll be more and more, and hopefully that can come into it.
What was it like for you personally reaching that milestone, reaching that 100? Because it feels like quite a long time since Gaul back in November 2018 on your Test debut, when making Test centuries must have felt like the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, it's obviously been a interesting journey since then. Out of the side for quite a lot of the time and getting the odd chance, but yeah, to I guess at this stage be number one and get another 100, I think I really appreciate this one more than I probably did on that debut one.
Did you feel any pressure to get runs, to be scoring centuries, or were you focusing on letting your wicket keeping do that for you?
I think you always do. I think batting at 7, I wouldn't necessarily say like getting hundreds is a big thing that I think of as been really important, I guess, in that position, but I think definitely contributing with runs. So I think obviously last week not getting any runs, I think you always feel a bit more pressure, but yeah, I think any time you're in a team you want to contribute with bat and gloves, so definitely trying to do that.
And did you know that declaration was coming? It didn't look like Jimmy had his pads on.
Yeah, Leachy told me Jimmy wasn't going to bat, so I basically gave the strike to Leachy there. He pulled out a few outrageous shots.
And as far as the state of the game is concerned, you've still got a pretty imposing lead, even without any wickets going down this evening.
Yeah, I think we're obviously in a fantastic position. Hopefully the wicket breaks up and deteriorates a little bit and plays into our hands, but we'll just have to wait and see.
I suppose that's the question, isn't it, really, whether it's going to break up even more with you having to possibly bat fourth on it, or are you thinking, right, OK, well, let's just not even have to bat again?
Yeah, that'd be nice. We're obviously in a good position in the game, so I think there's obviously a few cracks and things like that, so if they start to open up, then that wouldn't be the worst thing for us.
Well, look, enjoy tonight, and many, many congratulations again today, Ben.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's Ben Folkes speaking to Eleanor Oldroyd. 113 not out from 217 balls and 9 fours. And that is a big step for him, isn't it? I mean, he was saying it's quite interesting about not scoring hundreds at 7. OK, I guess 70s, 80s at 7. And if you get the chance to score 100, that's fabulous. But do you agree that it felt like he needed to show that he could do it against quick bowling? I mean, he's always had a good reputation against spin. But to do it against this sort of pace attack, that really does tick a box, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And an important stage in the series. The new coach has come in and they're still going to be finding their best 11 as they move forward. And it's important to put a marker down. As he said there, he's been in and out of the team a little bit outside of his first couple of Test matches. So to come in and score 100 against the bowlers that he has done today, I think is a fantastic effort. And also, I think when you're playing your first Test match or your first couple of Test matches, there can be a naivety with which you approach the game. You approach it sort of this wide-eyed person who's just enjoying every moment. And then as you play more and you get more accustomed to the media and the pressures that come with it, that can weigh quite heavily on some people. So I think with a performance like that today, his wicketkeeper is never going to be in question. He's the best wicketkeeper around. There's no questioning that. But with the bat today, I thought he was outstanding. He's really cemented his spot in the team for a little while to come. Yeah,
and they did test him out with the short ball. And actually, I mean, he tended to take it on, pulling and hooking and so on.
He did, yeah, and he looked relatively comfortable. I think, and that's the beauty of getting bowlers into their later spells and getting miles into their legs. I mean, that there's less ferocity behind those short balls. But I thought he played it well. He was controlled. He never looked out of control when he was playing the shot. It never went up off his bat. It always went down, which is a good thing to look out for. On bouncier, quicker pitches, maybe people will test him out more, but today he was equal to the task, and good on him.
I'll ask you one quick. I know you've got to go in a second to go into your television role, but I'll just ask you a quick one about Stokes, because again, I mean, he's been central to this mantra about the way that England were going to play, and that was not that sort of innings today. In fact, none of the innings that we've seen in this game. In fact, there you are, Ben Folkes. I even heard the word "old school" in there, because that's the way that they did play, and that was a classic Stokes Test innings. Actually, he does usually start quietly and patiently.
He does, and actually I think the way he played today is important for the rest of the team to see, because the Ben Stokes we've seen as captain so far has been ultra positive with both ball and bat and in the field. I think there was an intelligence to the way that he played today that is going to resonate around the dressing room and tell people that, yes, it is okay to suck up periods of pressure. I'm not under pressure to just run down the wicket and play a big shot if a bowler's bowling well at me. You can always soak up that pressure and you can capitalise later on. So I think that was quite a big innings for himself and the team to see that it is possible to construct test innings like that under this regime.
Yeah. I can see the bright lights of the television waiting for you.
I know, I might need some makeup first. Can I borrow some of yours?
I think you might. There you go. Go and enjoy yourself on there. Highlights, of course, available on the BBC iPlayer, featuring Stephen Finn and co. They're about to record them over there now, the last final bit. Andy Zaltzman, is a Stato's day today? What have you got for us?
I mean, there have been more Stato
Yes.
statistical days, but I think that the thing that interested me most regarding Folkes' century was how England's wicketkeepers have struggled in recent times. Since the last 100 by an England wicketkeeper, which was by Josh Buttler in the final test of the 2020 summer, England had played 25 tests before this one. Their keepers between them had made only 2 half-centuries, the higher of which was Folkes' 56 earlier this summer, and they'd collectively averaged 19. That's if you exclude Afghanistan, who've only played 2 tests, all other teams' keepers have averaged 30 or more. So England, the only team averaging below 30, and those were averaging 19. So it's been a long time since an England keeper reached 3 figures, and even longer since an England keeper reached 3 figures not in the first innings batting first. For that, you've got to go back 117 tests to Matt Pryor's match-saving 4th innings 100 in Auckland in 2013. And it had been something about Johnny Bairstow scored, I think, 5 centuries, first innings batting first, but none having kept wicket. So this was, a landmark innings for Folkes individually, and it's sort of broken that sequence for England's wicket-keepers. We've talked a lot about how good South Africa's bowlers have been over the last couple of years, since the start of the 2020 to 21 international season. They've been the most effective bowling side in international cricket in terms of runs per wicket that they've taken. They've got at just 23.5 runs per wicket, and this is only the second time in the 15 tests they've played in that time that their opponents have scored 400. New Zealand managed it in the first test against them earlier this year, and so England have done so today, and they've recovered from 3 down with less than 50 runs on the board to make 400 or more for only the 12th time in England's test history.
Jolly good. There you go. It's been that sort of a day. Vernon, we've got a minute and a half. Well, can South Africa survive tomorrow? That's the obvious question. 90 overs to bat.
Yeah, look, I think as a unit, they'll probably sit down tonight and discuss it. I think I did say it earlier. Conditions look like, it is a lot better from what we have seen, and if you can get yourself in, I mean, they've obviously have Dean Elgar, which I feel is a massive fighter, and he's going to be key in this sort of. In the sort of fight against England. I think, we all know, they're probably dead and buried, but for them, a couple of hundreds will do the top order good. And I think, we haven't seen 100 from them. Obviously, in the test matches this series so far. So there's a massive opportunity for a couple of them to put up their hand and really get stuck in. It doesn't have to be pretty, but you have to feel that they will have to grind out some sort of score, and hopefully they can get to 400 even, and or match England's score, and then have 115 the last innings to give themselves some sort of a chance.
Talking about putting up a hand, can Rassie van der Dussen put up his hand, do you think, and put a batting glove on? Have you heard anything?
Well, just looking at some of the reports that come back, he's been asked to rest that finger overnight. He took a massive blow on his index finger, so hopefully for them, he will be able to take to the crease, and it's an exciting day ahead tomorrow.